Assalamu alaikum. This is the 11th lecture of numerical analysis. Today's topic is the MATLAB code for cubic splines. The system which we discussed in the last two topics. Let's see that if we write a computer code, that how we can construct the cubic splines. Cubic splines using the system of equations. Let's assume we're having n plus m plus number of points. Why I started from 1? Because if you're writing x of 0, so MATLAB will not recognize a 0, negative number. That's the reason I started from 1, and you can see I reach up to m plus 1. So we having m plus 1 number of data points, and accordingly we can construct the splines. M number of splines, so you can see I started from 1 here also. So the spline between these 2 points will be S1. The next 2 points will be S2, and xm plus 1 f of m, xm plus 1 and xm f of xm. The spline between these 2 points will be denoted by Sm. So this is the spline we are constructing. So let's see later how we are dealing with the MATLAB. First of all, clear all. Clear all, so MATLAB will clear whatever the variables we have defined. They will clear them first. Secondly, if you look at this one, there are m number of splines, so I just said that n is equal to m. Because when you are using m, n, then your computer don't recognize what is meant by this one. This is a matrix X, column matrix, and I represented this by x1 the first component, x2 the second component, and xm the final component. So these are xi's. So x1, x of 1 is equal to small x1, capital X of 2 is equal to small x2, and capital X of m plus 1 will be xm plus 1. If you are running a loop, you are writing in this way. Instead of commas, if you are using space, dots, the computer will not recognize what you mean by dot. I mean that you have to write the points x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, all the complete points you have to write over here. So this is a vector. These are the values of xi's which MATLAB will give you. If you say x, then MATLAB will display x1, x2, x3 up to xm plus 1. Similarly, I defined another vector which I represented by f. By f I mean the vector containing the components of f of x1, f of x2, f of xm. I just denoted that by f1, f2, f3. These are the numbers you have to feed. These are the numbers coming from your data, f of xi's. But if you write in this way, again, dots, you have to complete this portion. How many points you have? So I assume that we are having m number of points. So this will be second component of this data that computer will recognize. Now you know that we need the step size. How? If you remember the last lectures, so in the last lecture this was the step size. I just reproduced it for your understanding. Remember, this is not using for your computer code. This is just for your understanding. Throughout my lectures, when I represent by red, it means that I am writing for you just. That's a step size. Step size will be x2 minus x1, I represented that by h1. x3 minus x2, I represented that by h2, and xm plus 1 minus xm, I represented that by hm. How I will be coding that in MATLAB? Let's start a loop. The value of j is starting from 1 and it will reach up to n. The value of n you have defined before, that is m, and you can see it's just according to this statement. H of j, remember I can't write in this subscript in MATLAB, but you have to write in this way. H of j is equal to x of j plus 1 minus x of j. This j is, it depends upon you. Whatever the notation you want to use, you can use that. Always remember, when you start the loop, you have to end the loop. What this loop will be doing for you, it will take j is equal to 1 and will compute for you h1 is equal to x2 minus x1. Then we'll go and take j is equal to 2 and we'll write for you h2 is equal to x3 minus x2 until j is equal to n. J is equal to n means that hm is equal to xm plus 1 minus xm, and you can see that these three lines cover the complete these HIs compute for you, and covering the complete data to compute step size for you. Now let's go further. Let's compute alpha j. Alpha j, these are the constants. Remember, instead of A, B, C, D, I have used alpha, beta, gamma, delta in the splines. So let's compute these values in the spline using the computer code. So when I use the computer code, so you can see from the last two lectures, you can see that AJ, I have written alpha j. Alpha j is equal to f of xj. You can see that f of xj, they are known here. I stored it in f1, f2, f3, f4 and so on. F of 1, capital F of 1 is equal to f at the point x1. Capital F of 2 is equal to small f of 2, which is coming from the data. So you have already given the information in your program to the computer that I know these values. I know these values. So let's start the loop. So you can see loop will be starting from 1 and it will reach up to m plus 1. And if you remember, I told you that we need gamma 1, gamma 2, gamma 3, gamma m. But alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3, alpha m. But if you remember, in the last two lectures, we need alpha m plus 1 also. That's the reason I'm reproducing this for you. So let's write the loop. Again start. I have used this time instead of j, I used k. I told you that it depends upon you. That's the reason I use different notation, so that you don't have the confusion what I have to use. You can use any notation you like. Alpha 1 is equal to f of 1, and f of 1 according to this statement is given by f of x1, and f of x1 is in your data which you have feed it to your computer. So it will take k is equal to 1, alpha 1 for you, k is equal to 2, alpha 2 for you, and k is equal to n plus 1, that will be alpha m plus 1, which is equal to f of m plus 1, and you can see that f of m plus 1 is available in your data. So these three lines will compute all alpha i's for you. So you need alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3, alpha m for these splines, but remember alpha m plus 1 we need in the computation of Ci. So in this case Ci's, I have represented that by gamma i's. So again, this is the MATLAB notation. It's totally up to you. Next step will be, we have to go for beta, we have to go for gamma, but we have to go for delta. But first of all, I will focus on gamma J, which in the last two lectures I represented by Cj. So let's focus on that. You can see this was the main scheme, if you remember, in your last two lectures. Of course, it's starting from 2 up to m. In that case, I was saying starting from 1 up to m minus 1. But remember, I started from x1 instead of x0. That's the reason I'm starting from 2 and reaches up to m. Total number of points are m plus 1, so I'm reaching up to m, 1 less than that one. Look at this one, the right hand side. These are known quantities. From where these are known, you have computed these values in this loop. So these alpha i's, they are known quantities, and hj, they are known quantities. You have computed them in this loop. So this is the right hand side. If I am writing this in the form of ax is equal to b, so this is the right hand side. That's the reason I put forward for you independently. And if you recall, this was the matrix for the natural splines. This was the matrix for the natural spline, the matrix B. Remember, it's starting from 2, it's starting from this and it reaches up to m, it reaches up to this one. The first and the last row, they correspond to the boundary conditions. So I'm just focusing on this portion now, how I will generate this one. So first of all, I have denoted that by B. So let me define. Now let's focus on the construction of these elements. So first of all, I will say that let's assume the matrix B is 0. So when the matrix B is 0, so I define in this way. You can see that there are how many splines you have, m number of splines you have, and there are m number of rows. M number of starting from 1, starting from 2 up to m, starting from 2 up to m. So this will be how I define all of them is equal to 0. Now let's start from the second row. Look at this, straightforward. It's here. J starting from 2 and reaches up to m. Starting from 2 reaches up to m. This one is starting from 1 up to n. So I have written this from this entry up to this entry. This I will cover later on. But initially I assign that value is equal to 0. Start from 2 up to m. 3 divided by h of j. So I have started this from I is equal to 2 up to n, and n is equal to m if you look at your data before. Bi is equal to 3 divided by hi multiplied by alpha I plus 1, which you can see over there, minus alpha I minus 3 divided by h of I minus 1 multiplied by alpha of I minus alpha of I minus 1. So exactly I have written this equation, this term in this form. So you can see when it take I is equal to 2, this will give you B2. B2 is this entry. This will be 3 divided by H2, which you can see over here. Alpha 3 minus alpha 2 minus 3 divided by H1 multiplied by alpha 2 minus alpha 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. And similarly, when you say alpha is equal to, when you say alpha is equal to 3 from here, so this will give you B2 is equal to 3 divided by 3 divided by H3, which you can see over there, and this will be alpha alpha 4 minus alpha 3, which you can see over there, minus 3 divided by H2 multiplied by alpha 3 minus alpha 2. And this process will continue until it will reach up to n, but n is equal to m. If you look at it, this will give you b of m is equal to 3 divided by h of hm multiplied by alpha m plus 1 minus alpha m minus 3 divided by h m minus 1 multiplied by alpha m minus alpha m minus 1, which you can see that this is the equation which appears over here. So this loop, this will tell you that all the entries initially they are 0, and in this case we replace the entries from row number 2 up to row m by this expression, and you can see that it will exactly give you the values like this. Remember, h you have defined already there, alphas you have defined there, so these all quantities are known quantities. So up to this portion we got the entries from this up to this row. Now let's come to the last row. Since I have used the natural spline, and you know the condition for the natural spline, in last lecture C1 was 0, C0 was 0, and Cm was 0, but I denoted that started from gamma. So this is gamma 1 is 0 and gamma m is equal to 0, the first and the last entry. So you can see I reproduce B1 already I have defined in the previous loop, but if I define it again, so it doesn't matter. This will be Bn plus 1, the last entry which I showed you in the matrix B. Now this complete your matrix B. Matrix B is B1 is 0, B2, B3, B4 up to Bm, the entries in the last loop. And these two lines will give you the entry of the first row and the entry of the last row. So this completes your matrix B, which is in the system Ax is equal to B. Now let's compute the coefficient matrix for gamma j. So correspond to Cj. Let's see that how. This is the main equation. My focus is in this portion only, because this can be written as Ax is equal to B. So this is B which we defined. Now let's focus on this coefficient matrix for gamma j. You can see I have taken just this portion and reproduced here, and this is the matrix. I just copied the matrix from the previous lectures. This was the matrix we got. So you can see that this is a tridiagonal matrix. First of all, let me define that all the entries of A are zeros. Now you can see that it's starting from gamma 1, gamma 2, gamma 3 up to gamma m plus 1. So there are m plus 1 number of unknowns. So this column corresponds to gamma 1, this corresponds to gamma 2, this corresponds to gamma 3, and this corresponds to gamma m plus 1. So I just reproduce that. So first of all, let's define the matrix A. All the entries are 0. So you can see I started from, these are the column number 1, 2, 3 up to m plus 1. So I can see n plus 1 because I define n as m. And similarly row 1st, 2nd, 3rd up to m plus 1. So you can see that all these entries I define this as 0, so that there is no confusion. You sign in this case, you will replace the matrix A by 0. All the entries are 0. What we are doing now? We are replacing these zeros by these non-zero values now. So for that, I consider the first loop, another loop, j starting from 1 up to n plus 1. I'm using this for the column. So column, this corresponds to column 1, column 2, column 3, up to column n plus 1. And I'm starting from I is equal to 2, because I will put this entry and the last entry independently. So j starting from 2, it's starting from 2 and reaches up to n, up to this entry. What I'm saying, when I is equal to j, means that my target is the main diagonal. I ask my computer, compute A2, 2, A3, 3, A4, 4, and so on for me. So what I'm saying, the value of Aij is given by this expression. And if you look at this expression, A22, A2 is equal to 2 into A1 plus A2, 2 into H1 plus H2. Similarly, A33 is equal to 2 into H2 plus H3, which is given by this one. A44 will be equal to 2H3 plus H4, which is this one. And finally, ANN, AMM will be equal to 2HM minus 1 plus HM, which you can see that is the entry. So with the help of this line, I replace the zeros on the main diagonal by these values. Yeah, you can see it over here, straightforward. On the main diagonal, the entry is 2 into Hj minus 1 plus Sj, which you can see over here. This is below the main diagonal and this is above the main diagonal. So let's see. We have a restriction when I is equal to j plus 1. I is equal to j plus 1. So it means that when j is equal to 1 and I is equal to 2, when j is 1, so 1 plus 1 is 2, I is equal to 2. So I am asking in my program the value should be h. So this will be 2, 1, 2, 1 will be h1. And you can see the value appears over there. And similarly, when I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 2, I is equal to 3, j is equal to 2, the value of this will be h3 minus 1, which is h2, which you can see over here. And finally, when I is equal to n, when j is equal to n, when j, we are not going up to n. So the final value of I is n. So when I is n, so j will be n minus 1. When j is n minus 1, so the value of this will be h n minus 1, and you can see that is the final value. So with the help of this line and this line, we constructed the entries below the main diagonal. Now let's come to the values above the main diagonal. What will happen in that case? I put a restriction. This condition is satisfied now. J minus 1, when I is equal to j is equal to 2 and I is equal to 1. So I is not starting from 1, so this is not the case. J is equal to 3 and I is equal to 2. Then the value should be h2, and which you can see over here. J is equal to 3 and I is equal to 2. Similarly, when j is equal to 4 and I is equal to 3, so this should be h3, and you can see that is the value. When j is equal to 5 and I is equal to 4, this will be h4, which you can see this value. And finally, when j is equal to n plus 1, then I will be equal to n, and this will be hn, but n is m, and you can see that is the value. So with the help of these two lines, you replace the values above the main diagonal by non-zero values. So this compute the main diagonal, below the main diagonal, above the main diagonal. and the rest of the entries are 0, which we have defined over there. Since you have started f, so you have to end this f. You have started this far, so you have to end this far. You have started this far, you have to end this far. Now what you did so far, you computed this value except the first and last. Except the first row and the last row. So now if you look at this condition, exactly it matches with this one. The main diagonal, below the main diagonal, this is j plus 1, which you can see over here, and above the main diagonal, this is hj, which you can see over here. But remember, I used j for column and used I for row. So this is the case. Now let's look for this one. If you look at this entry, this is a11 is 1 and an plus 1 n plus 1 is 1, and that's coming from the boundary condition. So let's use the natural boundary conditions, and you know that the natural boundary conditions we discussed in the last lecture, that C1, C0 is equal to 0 and Cn is equal to 0. But remember, instead of not I used 1 and instead of n I used m. So C1 is equal to 0 and Cm plus 1 is equal to 0, and you can see the entry which I told you right now, and the last entry is 1. Now you have completed the matrix A. You have completed matrix B. You completed the matrix A. And let's find out the solution. This is the solution. You can use A inverse of A multiplied by B, it's up to you. But normally this notation gives you, this command gives you better accuracy. So gamma stands for the coefficients of x square. So you computed gamma i's, and now let's compute. Alpha i's you have computed before, gamma i's you computed here. Now let's compute beta i's and delta i's. This is the value of beta I, which you know from the beginning. A i's are known. Gamma i's you have computed. You can find out the values of beta I, but let's generate a loop for it. So you can see the value of j starting from 1 up to m. But m is n in our program. I use I starting from 1 up to n. So let's find out the value of beta I. So beta I is equal to 1 over hi multiplied by alpha I plus 1 minus alpha I, which you can see over here, minus hi divided by 3 multiplied by 2 gamma I plus 1. Alpha i's, gamma i's are known, so you can find out the values of beta i's. When I is equal to 1, beta 1 is 1 over h1 multiplied by alpha 2 minus alpha 1 minus h1 divided by 3 multiplied by 2 gamma 1 plus gamma 2. And similarly, when I is equal to 2, you are having beta 2 is 1 over h2, alpha 3 minus alpha 2 minus h2 divided by 3 multiplied by 2 gamma 2 plus gamma 3. And finally, when I is equal to n, beta n, which is beta m, 1 over hm alpha m plus 1 minus alpha m minus hm divided by 3, 2 gamma m plus gamma m plus 1. Similarly, if you look at the values of delta I, this was the formula which we used in the previous lectures. So again, the value of j starting from 1 up to m, which is the same as this one. Delta I is equal to gamma I plus 1 minus gamma I divided by 3 h of I. Remember, you have to be careful about these parentheses. If you use the parentheses at a wrong place, you will be getting the wrong value, because all these quantities are known now. You started the loop, so end the loop also. Now you saw that you computed alpha i's, beta i's, gamma i's and delta i's, and that completes your spline. So what I am doing, I am plotting these splines in a single graph. So first of all, I say clear figure. So if there is any figure, so it will clear that figure. If you don't clear that, so it will replace that figure by the new figure again. If it is whole, so that will be the double figures. So what I'm doing, there were n number of slopes, so j starting from 1 up to n, and you remember that n was your m. This is your spline. What I did, I'm plotting x1 s1 between x1 and x2. So I generated a vector. This is the step size. This gives you a vector quantity having components x1, x1 plus h, x2 plus h up to x2. And then I computed this spline. So what the computer will be doing for you, it will generate a vector for you, and at every component of this vector will compute the value of s for you. For example, at x1 will compute s for you. For the value of x1 plus 0.01, we will compute the value of s for you. For the value of x1 plus 2 into 0.1, and will compute the value for you. And finally, at x1, it will compute the value of s for you. And then I ask the computer plot it for me. So remember, the components generated here and generated there, they are the same. Dimensions are the same. You can get a plot. But remember, if the dimension is not the same, so computer will give you an error of the dimensions. Then I ask the computer, hold on the figure. I will like to have all the figures on the same, all the plots on the same page. So what computer will do for you, it will go back, will take j is equal to 2, x2 and x3. So it will generate a vector with the step size 0.01 between x2 and x3. And every component of this vector will find out the value of s for you and will plot for you again. Then it will go again, will take j is equal to 3, will generate a vector between x3 and x4, and will generate the values of s at these components of the vector and will plot for you. And finally, it will reach up to j is equal to n, which will be the last spline. And between xn and xn plus 1. In other words, between xm and xm plus 1, which was the endpoint of your data, and will plot s against that one. So that will complete your graph of all the splines. So you can see that these 4 lines gives you how many intervals you have, and every interval you got different spline. So it will plot the corresponding spline in the corresponding subdomain, subinterval. And you will see that your plot, if there is no mistake in your programming, then the plot will be smooth and continuous curve. So what we did in this case, we constructed the splines using the MATLAB code and got a smooth and continuous curve, which you were looking for. So in the previous lectures, we compute all the values manually, analytically, and in this lecture we computed these splines graphically. I hope that I tried my best to discuss every small point, and I'm sure that if you write this computer code yourself now in your computer, So everything will become clear to you that how we can find out the splines and how we can plot them. And this will end the topic of the cubic splines. So inshallah, in the next lectures, I will be trying for you to talk about the numerical differentiation and integration. Thank you very much.